please check out our sponsor, Lear Capital. That's Lear Capital, the precious metals leader. Buy gold, buy silver, do it today. Hey everybody, I'm Christopher Green, and you're tuning into AMTV, Alternative Media Television. It is April 7th, 2015. And there's a lot of people talking about an imminent financial collapse, which means we've probably done our job here at AMTV, but I'm seeing it everywhere now. I'm seeing it from Alan Greenspan, former Federal Reserve Chairman. I'm seeing it from Forbes. I'm seeing it from multiple mainstream publications, prognosticators on CNBC, calling the stock market rigged, saying that we're in a bubble, saying that the asset bubbles are larger than anything we've ever seen. So that's great. That's great that there's now an acknowledgement that the whole system is bullshit, that it's based on a foundation of sand and lies. But the problem with it is nobody really gives a shit. Wall Street certainly doesn't give a shit because they're making tons of money right now. The Federal Reserve, pinched into a corner, doesn't give a shit because it knows it really can't act. It can't raise interest rates meaningfully. It can't normalize interest rates in the future without the whole house of cards coming crashing to the ground. But what we need to understand is what's going to happen next. And of course, I can't predict when the bubble pops. Nobody can. It could be today, it could be tomorrow, a couple of months, a couple of years from now. But we need to understand fundamentally that when it does happen, which now we have mainstream acknowledgement that it could be worse than 2008, 2009. Because of the actions and the direct actions taken by the Federal Reserve and their policies, we need to understand what happens next and what that will look like when the Dow Jones Industrial Average crashes, say, 70%, 80%, 90% overnight, or interest rates skyrocket in the bond market because there's no faith in U.S. credit any longer. Of course, we're seeing this macro shift. We're seeing Asia, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, which just happened a couple of weeks ago. We have 30-odd countries jump on board. Many people, the masses at least, haven't even really taken notice. But it really is a stamp of approval that the United States has lost its dominant superpower status in the world. No longer the primary issuer of debt, of credit through the IMF and World Bank, now with this counterpoint in the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. But what happens next is the Federal Reserve will lose all credibility in the minds of global investors. So when the crash hits, what's going to be different about it this time is that the Fed will be stimulating. It will be implementing quantitative easing and 0% interest rates thereabouts when the next crash hits. So global investors are going to have their hands on top of their heads. They're going to wonder how it was possible that the market crashed 70 or 80% with the stimulus, with the measures, the extraordinary measures that they're taking place. And you see, that's going to cause even more of a severe panic because at that point, the Federal Reserve won't be able to do anything. They won't be able to lower rates any lower. They won't be able to spend any more money. Once you've done QE to infinity, you can't do QE again. So that's when the real panic will shift, and that's really when the East will continue its rise, and it will be a catalyst for the collapse of the United States and the dollar, our currency. Now, Americans don't think this can happen here, but of course it's happened countless times throughout the world and throughout history. We saw this in Russia not too long ago, and the same thing is about to happen in the United States of America. But you see, most Americans don't give a shit. We're happy. You know, we're working on super leverage and credit and easy money. 0% down on homes just about through FHA. Nobody really cares, but they will care when the shock hits. Now, it doesn't mean you keep your head in the sand. It doesn't mean that you don't try to provide for your family. You don't take advantage of opportunities. I mentioned I thought oil was an extreme opportunity months ago. I said the blood was in the streets. You could look at the drillers. You could look at the commodity directly itself. You could look at companies like ExxonMobil that pay a solid dividend and do very well. And some of those investments have actually done very well over the past few months. So you don't have to keep your head in the sand. You need to plan for your future, but you need to understand what's coming. You need to understand the magnitude of the event ahead. This economic collapse that we're living through today. There is no recovery. There is no jobs recovery. There is no real growth in the U.S. today. It's not that we don't have great companies like Apple and tech, and other companies that could potentially be good investments. It's the system itself that is rotten to the core. It's structural. That's the problem with the system. It's exactly why we saw the Swiss bank, for example, with a counter move that shot the franc up 20% overnight when they said they were going to hold to their original policy. You see, the Fed is losing credibility, and that is the point. And when the next collapse hits and the Fed's backed into a corner and investors wonder how that was able to happen while the Fed was still stimulating, that's when the real shit is going to hit the fan. And it all ends in war. That's why I think geopolitically the conflicts have already started. They've already began. That's how the U.S. federal government and the military-industrial complex will press that reset button. They will blame the war. They will blame the death. They will blame the murder on God knows what. Terrorism, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Russia, Iran. It'll be somebody's fault, but it certainly won't be theirs. I'm Christopher Green. Get this video out everywhere, make it viral, hard hitting it in your face, and click the link below to support our sponsor.